Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast and another fabulous guest for the second time, albeit nearly 12 months later, Ms. Gail Kasper, all the way from, well, her LinkedIn profile says she's based in Los Angeles, but I know that she spends a lot of time in Philadelphia. So welcome back, Gail.
Oh my gosh, Darren, it's so good to see you. How have you been?
I've been really, really well, thank you. And we're just talking before we press record. It's May 2023. Since the last time we spoke, and I don't know about you, but time absolutely flies. It feels just like yesterday that we were speaking, and so much has happened since then.
The same. You still look awesome. You haven't changed at all. It's like it was the next day.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how good the filters of Zoom is right now?
And the lights. And the lights.
Well, what has changed since then, and for people that end up watching this on YouTube, is I've got the big pull-up banner with the Exceptional Sales Podcast banner, and you actually happen to have a wonderful banner behind you, which is the Men Almighty, which is going to be a podcast you'll be launching very, very soon. So, hey, I'd love to. There's been a lot that's happened in the last 12 months, but for the people who perhaps didn't catch the episode, we'll do a bit of background in terms of the story of Gail, because you've got a very, very interesting background. Before I hand over to you in terms of just a bit of a summation of your life of Gail.
Secret life of Gail, which will no longer be secret.
For people's benefits, Gail, you are an author, you are a producer, you're a TV host, you're a two-time TEDx speaker and a publisher, but also a fitness trainer. And you do a lot of stuff. You're about to relaunch a new website. You're about to launch a podcast, and we'll talk about the book that we touched on nearly 12 months ago, but that's coming out really, really soon as well. So looking forward to this. But for the listeners' benefit, just what's a little bit of your background that has led you to what you do today? This is a fabulous background.
A fabulous background, and really I started off when I was 19 years old. I moved from Philadelphia to California and had no job, no car, didn't know where I'd be living. I just got off the airplane and kind of had to figure things out. I had $2,000 in my pocket, had to find a place to live within a couple days, and ended up working as a receptionist for minimum wage, and just worked inside a company where it was multiple organizations. And I had an opportunity to really grow in the business world, but it was like 16-hour days, 7 days a week. It just was like really, I was at as far at the bottom as I could possibly be. I stayed out in California for about 5 years, so I got a lot of business experience. When I came back to the Philadelphia area, I ended up finishing my degree because I had dropped out of college, and finished my degree because I wanted to get a management role. And I did my thesis for my degree on leadership.
Yeah.
And I had learned that because I was very traditional management, I was a bad manager. So the more you learn about leadership, you learn about building people. I fell in love with the idea of helping my people achieve, which led me to work for a training organization because I wanted to be on my feet as a speaker and help people achieve. And that's when I also was selling full time, because I was selling the training programs and out in the field, cold calling, knocking on doors. And I came across a company called America's TV Job Network, which I ended up sitting on their doorstep for 3 months to get hired to be on their TV show. And I got fired from my training organization job. So overnight, I'm on my own in my own speaking company. I'm just doing this side gig for television, which you make a couple $100 on television. You're not making big money. It's doing the little side gig. And had to build my business. So, and obviously that's all about sales and building and growing. And that was kind of the start of Gail Kasper Television LLC, which is now a communications, speaking, and training organization. And I am known for my high level of customization for organizations. So sales training is my thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because there are so many sales training organizations that love to sell off the shelf training programs that think that will just fit that training program into any opportunity or any need that they think they have in the marketplace. Customization is needed more than ever today. And I know your new book coming out, Sell Like a Cockatoo, talks about how I guess the customer and the environment has changed and how we as salespeople have to change and adapt with that.
Yeah.
What were some of the key lessons you learned in the early days around that, particularly because you mentioned you got sacked from a sales training company, but
Yeah,
what kind of led you to the customization? Was it something that you noticed or something you felt needed to happen? Because customization back then, we're not talking years and years and years and years ago, but customization back then probably would have been quite unique for the time. Would that be a fair statement?
yeah, you know what? I'm so glad you're talking about that because customization, as I see it, is people will include the name of the company, know some elements, but really it's the group that's customizing, meaning you'll say to them, what are some of the questions you might ask out in the field based on your product? That's the customization that we're typically used to. That's
Mm.
considered customizing a program.
Yeah.
For me, it's and I found this because I just did a speech in December where I customized it, probably deeper and more so than I ever have before.
Uh-huh.
It takes several months to be able to do that at that level, but when you understand the training sales process, and then you, of course, understand Cockatoo, which is an advanced sales methodology, which we'll talk about. But when you understand that whole piece and then you understand the company and the products and like I sleep with those products and that company and I'm able to recite it back as though I go in the field, as though I work for that company, I
Yeah.
was able to uncover and deal with objections that some of their most tenured sales reps weren't able to do. It is a skill that I have. There's something that's innate inside of me, and I am not afraid to take it on. And I have that confidence in front of the group that, hey, this is it, and this is how it needs to be done.
Yeah.
I have it, I know it, and it's because of the whole picture. It's all the things that I know that make that up.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of cool. I I am the world's leading customization sales trainer. There isn't anyone that's better than me. There's
Yeah.
no one.
Yeah.
There's no one. And I'm not afraid of any topic or industry. It doesn't matter whether I've been in it before or not.
Hmm.
I know what I'm capable of doing.
Yeah. And how does that come about? Because you wouldn't have just woken up one day thinking, I'm just going to do something completely different, right? So was it something innate in you? Was it somebody that you had as a mentor or as a sort of a coach or a guide along the way that helped you starting to think differently? Because if you look at most sales organizations and most salespeople, they follow a proven recipe, and often that proven recipe was laid down many, many years ago. And they say, well, if it isn't broken, let's not try to fix it. But it's not necessarily keeping up with the 21st century. And we know today buyers are more educated than ever, which they are demanding their sales organizations to become more customized, more personalized, more
Smart.
specific.
You have to be smarter than a customer today. You can't go like you have to, if the customer starts talking about something that they read, you have to know it. You
Mm,
have to be, okay, yeah, yeah, I get that. But you've got the other perspective that you can bring.
yeah,
The customers want that today.
yeah,
When they sense that level of trust, they want to buy from you.
yeah,
So Cockatoo is about taking it over the top with what you know. There's no more, oh my God, I've been inside organizations and I just was like 2 days ago, I go out of my mind when I see, okay, sales rep starts at 9, they show up at 9:05, and by 9:15, they're running out to get breakfast. I don't understand that. I don't understand
what
that.
is going on?
I I don't understand that, Darren. You just got in. There should be a process. There should be calls. There should be initiative. There should be proactivity. And no, you're putting your stuff down, and 5 minutes later, you're kind of like, yeah, I want to run out and grab something for breakfast. Does anybody want anything? Oh my God. I can't. I can't because it shouldn't be that way.
No, it
They
shouldn't.
expect to excel in an environment if you're going to treat it like it doesn't matter. And that's what that is.
As you were talking then, Gail, it reminds me of the great Bob Proctor, God rest his soul. He talked about many years ago, he was doing a lot of work with big insurance companies. And I remember him talking about, I think it was the American or Prudential Life Insurance Company. And he came in and said, I'll help your organization significantly increase your sales by doing some really simple things. Now, when I was listening to that, as I reflect back on it, it was customization, but it was basically common sense. And to your point, a sales rep coming in at 9:05, they're supposed to start at 9. Let's go get breakfast at 9:15. Do you know what he did? He said, all we're going to do is we're going to get you to make 2 calls before 9 o'clock in the morning.
I love it.
And there was many people that said, oh, we can't do that. Customers are not going to pick up their phone before 9 o'clock. Well, trust me, they did. And over a period of time, I think they doubled their sales because he had the sales reps change their focus rather than going and get a focaccia or a coffee and a donut or a bagel. They're actually picking up the phone, making sales calls before 9 a.m. That was a differentiation, but it was always also customized because nobody else was doing that and their sales went through the roof. So I'd love your take on, I guess, this concept, and we'll delve into the book around customization, but just at a high level, because many people might be thinking, well, customization potentially sounds really complex. From your perspective, is customization and can customization be simple and founded in common sense?
No, it is complex. Oh, for me as a trainer, it is.
Yeah, okay.
For me as a trainer, because I could go into a medical field and have never been in that field before. And I have to understand and know each
Yeah.
one of those products, and I have to understand the company, and I have to understand their value prop and what makes them exceptional, where the challenges are. I really have to embed myself inside that organization and the product. So for me, it's very complicated. And for a sales rep too, I'm not going to shortchange it. They're
Hmm.
going to have to put time and effort into really, okay, you've said it yourself. They're given like a book, and this is what you need to know, and that's it. That's the box that they stay in. There's not like, well, wait a minute, why was it designed this way? Or why are we doing it? Or why was this ingredient added? There isn't that initiative to learn more than
Mm.
here's the book,
Yeah.
here are the tests, you take the tests and you're done.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. So you're very limited as a sales rep if you don't have the initiative to say, well, wait a minute, but why? But I
Yeah.
want to know more. But if I had to build this myself, how would I build it?
Yeah.
I refer to that in Cockatoo, like be able to build it yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things I love this about a company that my sister had worked for, and it was surge protectors. But in the very beginning, when she started working there, she actually had to put one together herself.
Hmm.
To me, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
To have that level of understanding, then it makes like a sale, it's part of you. It tells you what makes your product different, what's unique about it. So to me, it is a complicated thing. It involves time and effort, but once you know it, that's what makes it different. Then it becomes easier. It's kind of like when people will say, oh, I'm better on my feet when I wing it. Well, usually the people that can wing it are the ones that have done it for 20 years.
Correct.
It's no longer winging it.
Yeah.
It's the ones that try to get up on their feet and they're trying to get through it and they're really not sure where they're going. And you
Yeah.
clearly know they don't know where they're going.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. So complex. Um, so it can be complex. Customization can be complex. Does it? Because what I'm hearing you saying though is a lot of organizations, and it could be like your sister's company with the surge protectors, they are very good and very protective and very passionate about their products.
Mhm.
So just because you have a fantastic product doesn't necessarily mean that that product is going to fit a market need or is a solution to a problem that the customer has or you think they have. So from the customization point of view, we have to go, I guess, beyond just the product, but we have to go into the customer's ecosystem and figure out what's actually happening in that ecosystem. Now,
Yeah. And are
from
you
my
talking about, because are you talking about from a sales rep's perspective right now?
yeah,
Because
because
as
let
a
me
As a trainer, when I refer to myself as someone that customizes, it's very different than what a sales, it's not different than what a sales rep's going to do, but it's two different things. What
Yeah,
I'll do
so
versus what
yeah.
what I do is different than what a sales rep does.
Yeah, so as a sales trainer, you have to customize because you need to bring a level of authenticity and credibility to that environment to the point where they're going to want to listen to you and hopefully take on board some of the experiences and frameworks and applications that you can bring that will help them drive more sales. From a selling perspective, though, what I'm talking about here is customization has to go beyond just the product because you have to start to know a lot more about the customer before you go in and talk to your customer because customers almost do all their research before they choose to speak to you.
Right. And usually I don't refer to that as customization. I refer to that as like their sales presentation and the sales process and elevating it and knowing it and having a strong value proposition for your company and knowing the products. So to me, that's not a customization thing. That's just knowing it. Like you got to know your stuff and you
Yeah.
got to know what's going out there in terms of the environment, your community, what people are buying, why they're buying it, which is, I think, what you're alluding to, that the sales reps really have to know what's going on around them. It can't just be that, they're just talking about the product.
Yes, and my concept there, and it might be slightly different in terms of context, is that the customization question then comes into the fact that if you've got 10 customers, you're selling the same product, but the way you sell that to each of those 10 customers may have to be slightly customized based on the customer's ecosystem, situation, need, etc. So you might be selling the same solution or slight variances of it. So you have to customize that. So it's not just about your product. So it's probably
Yeah.
different to the sales training customization. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right about that. And I do address that in Cockatoo because the different generations, you
Mm,
might have a millennial, Generation X, baby boomer, Generation Z. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
you've got this variety of individuals that are coming to you all with different needs. And so when you take the different generations, Cockatoo does that. It says, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with each one of these? How are you going to sell them? Each one of them buys differently. The other part of that, though, is their body language, their tone of voice, and what they say. Are we paying attention to them in terms of the body language, or so
Mm,
that we can best dance with them? And are we addressing it? Because
yeah.
sales reps can get into the groove where they're just selling. And then when they sense something's off, instead of addressing it, they just start selling more, which is not going to help them. You're laughing. You're laughing. What's funny?
Well,
By the way,
because I
I gotta
have
tell you, Darren, I've got a cockatoo here.
is that Hank?
I he had a little mic on earlier. I talk to him all the time. That's
He
Hank.
answers back. Now, the reason I'm laughing is I've got two hands in the air because I've done that, right? And I work with sales teams that are guilty of selling past the close. And they want to get out all the product information and they don't spend near enough time on what I call the soft skills, understanding your customer, reading body language, reading energy, reading just using your perceptive skills and your intuitive skills and thinking, you know what? There's been a slight change in this in sensory acuity of Gail that she's looking in a different direction. What does that mean? And be attuned to that, right? Because the elite exceptional salespeople are doing the selling well before they launch into a product demonstration, well before they do a pitch of a solution. They're doing the selling from the very first interaction and they're paying attention to all of these things and they're putting it into the recesses of their mind for future reference.
And that's exactly true. That's
Yeah,
exactly true. They're processing and they're addressing. They're not running from it. They're not scared of it. They're not ignoring it. If they've lost a customer, they're trying to get them back. They're
yeah,
not just hoping that if they talk more, the customer's just going to be like, oh, okay, I'll sign.
that's it.
So yeah.
But isn't it about the product? Isn't our product the best product? And therefore customers should be falling all over themselves. So I just have to go in and show it to the customer and they'll say, where do I sign? How many can I have?
Right? Yeah, no. Wouldn't that be great if it just worked that way?
Well, maybe that's some of the salespeople that are coming in at 9:05 and going for coffee at 9:15.
Am
I'll just come back at 10 and the
I
customers
wrong?
will probably throw
Am
me
I
some
wrong
orders.
for that bothering me, Darren? That really does bother me. Am I wrong for that? Am I
Look,
supposed to change my way of thinking? What?
No, we've got to be careful. Certainly, as sales leaders and sales trainers, we need to be conscious of not judging, not judging people or casting dispersions on others based on our own views. But we do know what excellence looks like, and we do know what
Sure.
exceptional performance looks like, and great salespeople will never ever stop. They'll squeeze every ounce of available time they have to be as productive as they can be to move a relationship forward, move a sales forward as they possibly can. They're not going to waste time going talking about what happened at the Super Bowl, or did you go to the Taylor Swift concert and eat bagels and drink coffee, right? That lazy salespeople do that. And I'll just put it out there. Lazy salespeople do that. Exceptional salespeople are working always.
And you know what? It's like, I love that you said that because I can think of some of the top salespeople, and you always know that even if they're saying hi to you and they're present and they're saying, oh, how was your night or whatever, they've already got a plan in place.
Yep.
They already know that okay, I got to get to the phone, I got to make a call. They've got a plan, even if they're giving you that time, that first minute in the morning, they
Yes.
know that there's something more that they've got to do.
Yes.
And you can feel it. You can feel it around them. And it's how
That's
they
it.
talk. It comes out, it comes through in their words almost immediately. Oh, yeah, I got this going on, or I got this
Yeah.
customer coming back. Oh, right away, right
That's
away.
That's it. And they have purpose. And you would know this as a trainer going in and speaking to sales teams, you very quickly can pick up without looking at anybody's results. That person's great. That person's a bit of a slacker. Not quite sure about that person. So they give this vibe or energy off. And it's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. And I love that you said that because like I said, you can always tell the people that have that purpose and
Yeah.
your subconscious catches it, so even if you're not consciously catching it, you catch it.
Absolutely. So I say this to leaders all the time. I just did a leadership workshop this week with a new company, and I said, guys, you've got to be conscious of the fact that as a leader, particularly if you're a relatively new leader, people are going to be watching your every move. It's like the Truman Show. You're going to have a camera following you around everywhere you go. So you need to be intentional and very specific with the kind of example you want to set and model the behaviors that you want to see play out in your team. And so, if you want to set the bar really high and you would drive a level of excellence in your team that perhaps the company's never seen before, that starts with you. So you've
Mhm.
got to be purposeful and you've got to be really in tune to that because people are going to be watching and they'll actually listen to what you're saying and what you're not saying as well. But more than ever, they're going to be looking at how you behave and how you act in any environment, and
That's
they'll be the
true.
cues that they'll look at.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. People
Yeah.
people consistently watch. And like I said, even if their subconscious picks it up, they know. They know. And they
Yes.
know the people that they need to stay out of their way. They know
Yes.
that, the people that
Yes.
are just in motion.
That's it. Now, the other thing about that is, that you mentioned before the person going off at 9:15 to have breakfast and stuff like that. You could easily look at that and say, you know what, that person, they haven't had breakfast. They had to drop the kids off at school, had a few things to do before work, so they didn't have a chance to have breakfast. Um, Exceptional people say, no, no, I will make time to get breakfast. I need to make sure that I'm nourished because when I hit the ground, I have to hit the ground. So there are little patterns that you can start to see, and there's little signals that you might get from people to say, okay, if you think it's okay to take half an hour during work time to go and have a bagel, drink a coffee, and yes, we need to have breaks, get that, right?
Absolutely.
What does that
Absolutely.
tell us about the level of um, intentionality or purpose or urgency that they have when it comes to doing the things they need to do to drive their sales forward? There might be a question mark that comes upon those people because they might find the easier way out rather than actually doing the things they need to do.
Well, Darren, let's take that to another level. What does that say about management? If your people can be like, hey, I just got in, I'm gonna go grab some.
Anybody want a coffee and a donut?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Hey, I can make a couple stops on the way. Like, what does that say? Like, because meaning seriously, let's talk about sales management. And sometimes as people are put into a sales management role and they don't know, like meaning they were in sales before they don't have the tools maybe that they could have.
Yeah.
But in my leadership and management training program, one of the things that we talk about is kind of pregame, meaning when you're bringing somebody on board, they kind of know how they have to behave when they get there.
Mm.
Meaning these are the, so to speak, rules. You know, you do get your 2 breaks, you do get your lunch break, you know, but when you're here at 9 a.m. at your desk, when you're here, you're here.
Yeah.
First order of business is if you don't have a customer, you're going to be making calls, whatever
Yeah.
it is. But when you agree to come on board and work for someone, they should know, like,
Yeah.
what is the game plan for the
That's
day?
it.
That
That's it.
it's not okay that you show up and then decide that you're going to go get breakfast. Usually you get it on the way, or you're eating it in the car on the way in, or you're eating it before you get, like, meaning it's so important and it's so much more effective to have that pre-game before, because then it tells you, is this the right person for the job? And the person across the desk that you're interviewing can say, I don't want to work in such a strict environment. You know, I like to come in at 9:15. You know what I'm saying? You know right off the bat if it's a win-win or not.
That's it. And it's okay. It's okay if people don't want to work in a high performing environment and a high pressure environment. And pressure is not so much you need to make those calls. Pressure is we have such high standards of excellence that you feel compelled to do whatever it takes to maintain that level of excellence, right?
Yes,
And it's
I
done
agree.
with the intention of developing and adding service, not chastising, discriminating, criticizing, things like that. So it tells you a lot. So let's talk about the book. It's about to come out in the next 30 to 45 days. It is
Yes.
called Sell Like a Cockatoo, and it's about how to master the new way of selling in a rapidly changing world. Now, what's the premise of the book? Because I know I mentioned Hank before, and you've got Hank the cockatoo that you just flashed
Sitting
on
here
the
with me right
screen.
now, listening in. It's based on my father, who was a master salesman, and I would give the credit of making millions of dollars in sales, meaning he had the natural skills, which I've seen since I was a child, meaning it was part of who he was, that
Yeah,
would guide and lead a sale to a close with just an energy and a purpose that people followed. So it comes from Hank the Cockatoo being my father.
and your
And
father's name is Hank.
yes,
There you
father's
go.
name is, yeah. And just really what I observed through the years and his mentorship upon me, which got me to close millions of dollars in sales and has led companies to produce millions of dollars in revenue.
Yeah,
So it's a proven process that has had incredible success. And it takes what we know to be the sales process and has them elevated. So it has the sales reps, which is what we've been talking about, especially in this day and age.
yeah,
You have to come in at the highest level with a customer, but it also takes it to the next step that if you don't know that sales process, that if it isn't a part of you, then you are not in a position to guide the customer with their body language, their tone of voice and words. You're
yeah,
not in the position to do it because you're not present.
yeah. Love it. And the cockatoo reference. I know you mentioned your dad was a great mentor, great guide, and a super salesperson. Where did the cockatoo come into? What was the I can't help but thinking there's like a metaphor there that we need to try to bring out.
Yeah. Well, think about the qualities of a cockatoo. They're loud. Sales reps are loud. They need consistency.
Yeah,
Sales reps, any sales rep should say we need, they need consistency. They dance. And when it comes to think about the ability to guide and move a customer through the sales process, it is a dance. So the qualities of the cockatoo are the qualities that sales reps portray or need to portray as they continue to develop and evolve moving forward now.
yeah,
So Cockatoo provides an advanced sales methodology that it gives the sales reps the tools, number one, to have that solid foundation for the sales process, and then to build upon them to a bigger and higher level. So the training program kind of challenges them to take their skill sets over the top and then puts them in the position to understand and learn body language. I've been trained in body language as well as interrogation, so I bring those skills into, yeah, I know. Stop crossing your arms there, Darren. It's really like turning me off. But the skill sets that will then be body language, tone of voice, and words. How do you read them? So if you know your sales process so well, you're then in a spot to kind of move and adjust with the customer to guide them to that close.
Nice. And so with that, companies will have their own selling methodology. Some might have a Miller Hyman, some might use spin selling and whatever other methodology that's out there, or they might have their own. So are we saying then that selling like a Cockatoo can take an existing sales methodology and amplify it based on all the things that we know Cockatoos are good at, such as consistency, being loud, etc.?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
Cockatoo selling system could take any methodology and take it up a notch. It's
Nice.
going to challenge every methodology that's out there right now. So it's really exciting. It's exciting to bring something different, something unique that isn't the same old with what people do or just handling objections. It's going to ingrain a sales rep so deep into what they do that objection responses are just going to be a natural part of the process,
Mm.
not a specific step. It will be a natural part of the process.
Yes. Yes, because you're paying attention to all of the, I guess, the non-verbals, the tonality, which is the verbal stuff.
And the confidence level of sales reps is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
The more confident you are, the more you're going to sell.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Cockatoo challenges that whole element to raise the bar with yourself so that you feel good about you. You're not afraid of it.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of it. You can't be
Yeah.
afraid of anything in sales. You've got to know and believe in your product and have so much passion for it that you can just sell it in a second.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting though how many salespeople give up after either the first or second attempt? And there could be a lot of buying signals, or it may well be that the time that they actually caught that particular customer, that customer was not yet in the buying window, but they were approaching the window or quite a bit away from the window, but they didn't pick the signals. They didn't pick up the fact that they're not quite ready yet, and what was the process I need to guide them through in order to get them ready for when they're going to purchase, and that I position myself as being the person top of mind as to the first person they think about, which is all
Yeah.
the non-verbal stuff, right? It's all the where they are in the system, where they are in their cycle.
That and one of the things that I address in the Cockatoo selling system is a process that I created called the systematic attitude development technique, which is about getting logical in the face of emotion. So it's training sales reps to put the rejection aside and just keep doing the process because when you're taking action, you produce results.
Yes.
It's those mornings you don't feel like getting out of bed, but you do, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so glad." Like today, I wish I hadn't, but when you keep going, you find results. It's just the
Yeah.
matter of, like you said, okay, I did it twice and it didn't work, and well, this isn't right for me. You got to get into that groove. You got to keep going. You got to keep the motion, keep the action.
Yeah, and it's progress over perfection because,
Yeah.
as you said before, some people might say, "Well, I'll just wing it," and I see this with sales reps all the time. We're going to go and see this customer. They're taking their sales manager with them. They don't plan any key objectives of the meeting or key outcomes or key messages. We're just going to expand the relationship, and we'll just wing it and see how we go. They're the type of meetings that you might catch lightning in a bottle every now and then, but most of them are a complete waste of time. Not to mention the impression it creates on the customer, but also the sales leader that comes in and say this sales rep's not prepared. We don't think we've got as great a relationship as perhaps the salesperson perceives it to be. This is not good. So you can't wing it. You've got to be prepared, which means you've got to follow a process and a method.
You have to, and like when I hear a situation like that, part of me says, how much confidence do they have in what it is they're selling? Because, it's scary, okay, but like you said, you just don't want to just show up and just hope it works out. You really got to go in and give it everything. And even if you get, pulverized,
Yes,
at least you go down with the fight.
that's it.
But
That's
a
it.
sales rep will never know what they're capable of doing if they're not going to go the distance. You want at least know what you're capable of achieving,
Yes.
rather than go in and you've already quit, because that's what that sounds like. Well, I'll just show up and maybe something will come of it.
And if it doesn't work, we'll just go have coffee.
Yeah, we'll go have coffee because we kind of knew it wasn't going to anyway. So, but yeah, it's coffee break. We'll take 9 to 9:15 for the meeting.
9:15 for
We've got
coffee.
donuts and coffee. So, and we'll rehash over that, all the things that, they didn't like about what it is we're selling that don't work, that I can take back to my manager and say failed.
Exactly, exactly. So for the people that are going to pick up the book, if there was one key concept or one key principle, and it might be a difficult question to answer in the book that you think um, is like the catchphrase or the key principle in the book, what would that be, do you think?
It would be elevating your knowledge level.
Okay.
It would be challenging yourself to dig as deep as you can, to have such an understanding of what's going on that you can't help but love it. You just love what you sell. Because when you love it, you truly love it, you understand it, you will fight for it to the death. And that's what it takes.
It does. And when you talk about that, um, I get two senses of that, two elements. One is you've got to build your knowledge level and absolutely be passionate about the company you represent, the service you provide, the product you provide. Where does I guess, the knowledge level and the passion for the market, for the customer come into it? Is it something that's addition to that? Is it part of that equation?
It's part of the whole equation. It's part of number one, the learning process when you go in the door. What you come to understand about the product? It's got to come from management. It's got to come from above down. So it really is, it's a full picture because otherwise you're in it alone, and you need that team atmosphere that kind of
Yeah.
brings the whole process forward.
Yeah. So when you talk about that, there'll be people listening to that and say, "Yeah, we've got a really high performing team. We love our product. We fully believe in our product, but we're just not getting the results, right?" Because you might find this as well when you're out doing your work, whether it be the sales training or talking about the book and stuff, doing your speaking. There'll be people out there that will justify to themselves and they'll try to explain to you that we do have a huge amount of passion for what we sell, right? But it's not necessarily translating into results. So what do you say to people that will say things like, we love our product. We believe our product is the best in the marketplace, but they're just not getting cut through. What do you think potentially might be missing? Now, I know it's a how long's a piece of string type question, but is there any kind of things that you think about or you identify based on that sort of method of thinking?
It's interesting because we develop patterns, and we learn how to do things through those patterns. And that's usually where the wall is, meaning that it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, I've just been training sales representatives for different companies and they love their product.
Yeah,
But that's also why, like, they may hire you. That's why they hire me. Because now I come in and I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and I'm able to present it in a way that opens the door and breaks down those barriers that they need to have broken down to be able to sell.
yeah,
So sometimes it's just because that's the routine. They've learned it. They're selling it. They're doing it. They need that outside input, that outside perspective that's going to look at it completely differently. So hence why we all have mentors, hence why we all push ourselves to get training, because we are going to look at something from a different, way of doing it. And
yeah,
and that's I just went to a training program regarding my speaking, and just by sitting in the arena, like, I came up with the one little target that I want to focus on. But when your head is full of day-to-day activities, your brain is just going to explode. There isn't room to think about that. So you need that, that the training environment that can just open the door for something different.
yeah. And how much of that then is building customer knowledge? Because sales reps will think we love the product, we're really good at this, and you come in as a sales trainer, as a sales mentor, and you look at the product and say, you guys got a fantastic product. Now, it might be number one in the marketplace, it might be number four in the marketplace, right? Either way, we can sell this and we can significantly improve your sales numbers, right? I guess the question is, how much do sales teams and sales leaders and sales people spend too much time getting insular around their own product versus being passionate about it, but also being passionate about what does that mean for a customer? Because if you talk about the cockatoo is a wise bird, right?
It's
It
very
does the
smart.
dance. It's
He
actually
knows how to
very
fly.
intuitive as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, how much of that? Because I'm sure that through the book you're talking about, because you do mention in the preamble that all the stuff around body language, physiology, tonality of voice, how we
Well,
lead the customer in a dance.
yeah, and you're absolutely right in terms of digging to understand the customer because that is part of the Cockatoo process. There's 5 different types of questions that I will go through inside the Cockatoo book for people to really get to know who that customer is. And I'm still going to get back to the fact that we are creatures of habit. So I've
Yeah,
learned to do something a certain way. And because I'm doing it this way, that customer is responding like 5 other customers are responding, but it's because I'm stuck in my system of how I'm doing it. And it's when I change how I'm doing it that then we will see a different response from our customers.
there it is.
So yeah, so I think yes, you have to dig through the customer information. You've got to understand who they are, what they're about, how they operate, what's important to them. Why would they want this?
Yeah,
In their mind, does it help them or hurt them? Because if
yeah.
they think it's gonna hurt them, then they don't want anything to do with it. We got to get past that barrier. But by the same respect, we got to break free of some of the same things that we've been doing over and over and over again. And we see the same reaction from multiple customers, but that's because we're doing it the same way.
And what we also have to be, and I love your thoughts on this, what we also have to be conscious of is a lot of our competitors are doing it exactly the same way. So from the customer's view, they see a salesperson coming in from XYZ company, ABC company, and both those sales reps are selling the same way. And so they see them as identical. They're doing the same scripting. They might follow the same process. They're asking the same questions. We're thinking, you know what? I can't differentiate because they're the same. They're vanilla. They're beige, right?
It all comes down to I like John over Mary. That's what it
Yeah,
comes to. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
they're all the same. That's exactly right.
yeah.
I just like this person better.
That's it.
So yeah, that's it. That's exactly true.
So you got to make it. You got to make it clear as to what makes you different because people will buy from those who they like, they know, and they trust. And I say to salespeople all the time, you might have the best product on the marketplace, but if you're not a nice person and if you don't resonate with your customer, your product's not going to go into that organization. And they will do anything they possibly can to prevent that from happening if you are not a good person and there's not a personality fit, for want of a better term. So you've got to
Yeah.
look at that, right? So I get that from the book's perspective, a lot of the work that you do then is, I was going to say underneath the surface, but and I say that respectfully because it's a lot of the stuff that we potentially don't necessarily spend enough time thinking of. It's the questions that we ask. It's being paying attention to people's body language when they tilt their head slightly, when they lean back, when they lean forward. What are those little cues that we can pick up on that might be feedback for us to say we're on the right track or we're not, and
Mhm.
being receptive to that and responsive to that.
Yeah. And it starts with Cockatoo starts with the solidification of the sales process, really elevating it on all levels from rapport to uncovering needs to solutions and closing. So just taking that up 10 steps
Yeah,
and then putting yourself in a spot that you can then be that cockatoo.
yeah.
So, because when you are there, it becomes a lot easier.
So the people who, because I know you implement this through your training and all the customization work that you do. So for the people that go through that program and actually get it, because there'll be salespeople, and I know this, there'll be salespeople out there to say, you know what, oh, Gail, I'm really intuitive. Oh, I am one of the best salespeople. I can pick up all these signals, right? What's your experience with salespeople who perhaps are pretty good at what they do, and they might have a level of intuition that they can pick up on these signals and get through that? After going through your programs and after going through the Cockatoo selling methodology, what have you typically seen, particularly for those people who already have some level of
Right, I already use it.
intuitive faculty, for want of a better term?
And I love those people, because they're great examples inside the training class. And I have learned as a sales trainer in the beginning when I started training, It would be like, okay, I've got this process. This is what I want people to like. It was very like completely, it's still structured, but I also am in a spot where it's kind of like, okay, John over here, this is what he does well and it's working for him. And this is what Mary does well. This is what is working for her. So meaning I really do look at what's going on with each individual in session and what are the things that are working because they can be examples to the group.
Yeah.
And at the same time, because of my skill sets, I can help them elevate that. Meaning they may do it intuitively, but I can be the one that says, this is what's working when you do that.
Yeah.
This
So
is
you
what
break
really
it down.
works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like meaning this is what this is why I want to buy from you.
Yes.
So that they know that, it's the affirmation that maybe they've never heard before of what it is that they do really well and the specifics of that, that they can then take over the top. And like one of the things I love about those people that do things really well is that a lot of them do want to learn. Like,
Yes.
meaning that's what got them to that level is they're reading the books, they're listening to the podcasts, they're involved in training. They can't wait to be part of a new training program, something
Yeah.
different, something unique, because they're
Yeah.
already good. Now they're just trying to find that little key to take it over the top. So I do love working with, those that excel because it is like now you're just polishing it up. You know what I mean? Now I'm in a spot, I'm challenged. I got to make you be better. I got to figure out you know what I'm saying? I really got to know my stuff, but I will. Like when I'm in front of a group, I do.
Yeah.
So I love those people. Yeah.
And the good thing about that is the ones that have almost like the unconscious ability to adjust their style, mirror the customer, pay attention to all the nonverbal cues, they do it automatically without even thinking. I guess what we're talking about here is from the Cockatoo method and the training that you do, you can actually break that down and give them some more conscious awareness of how they do that and why they do that, so that
Yeah.
that for them can be teachable to others, so they can pay it forward to others and help the others elevate
Yeah.
elevate their capabilities, but also for the individual they can have a little bit more of conscious awareness to be able to dial it up or dial it down based on what's in front of them rather than just winging it because they do it automatically.
Yeah. Because they've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really true. And I do love to challenge them to try something different,
Yeah.
because I think it's my job to do that. You have somebody that excels, awesome, thumbs up. I'm thrilled during the session. You're a great example to everybody else, but it's my job to kind of push them to do something different.
So with
So it
that,
is individual.
it is. It is. So with that, is there something in the book or the methodology that is different in terms of, I'm not saying it's all common sense based, right? Because there'll be some cool stuff in there. But is there something that you've identified that for people who want to go from great to exceptional, there is like, I call it like the one percenter. Is there something in there that or you see in salespeople that make that leap based on the work that you do in the Cockatoo methodology that we can identify that people can be helped with?
Here's the thing, because it's going to be different for every person. And anything can sound like common sense when you're talking about it in terms of how you tilt your head and how you lean forward or whether the customer does or not. Um, the real changes occur either in a coaching session or in a training session, because then you are not just reading it, you have to do it. And it's really easy to read something and say, yeah, I know this stuff. It's a lot harder to follow it through and do it. And
Mm.
then to be actually graded as you are doing it, because that's what's involved with Cockatoo training, meaning
Yeah.
you're actually participating in the workshop. You've got a person as a customer, you're the sales rep, and you have to make those adjustments on the spot, and you're being called out if you don't. So like it's a whole different playing field when you're in front of the room and you know what I'm saying? You are actually having to do that or having to have read through those situations.
The old fishbowl role play.
Yeah, well, it works and it refines
Yeah.
and it changes habits.
Yeah.
That people operate as they operate. So if they are slow motion people, and yet Cockatoo is about fast moving and energy,
Hmm.
then it's a harder shift for them.
Yeah.
It's not just natural for them.
Yeah. Nice. And so the book is going to be out in the next 30 to 45 days. Where is the best place? Because I know you mentioned before we jumped on that you about to have a new website relaunched. The
Yeah.
best place for people
Yeah.
to connect with you and grab a copy of the book when it comes out.
Best place, what I would say is to go to my website because I have a resources page and there will be a link right there that people can click on it and they can go to purchase it. Right now, since the website is in process, like I said, it's going to be out within the next week. So hopefully by the time this is out, it's actually up. But they would see a coming soon button
Okay.
that will switch to a buy now. You know?
And the website is it still going to be gailkasper.com?
It is. It is.
Awesome. Now, before we so look, I highly recommend everybody listening to this grab a copy of the book because it's going to have stuff in there that even if you're delivering great results now, there's always another level that we know we can get to. So whether you're a sales leader, you want to buy your book for your team, do them a favor, do yourself a favor and do that. But also as a salesperson, if you're listening to this, do it as well. So because a good salesperson who wants to become an exceptional salesperson will never, ever, 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 ever stop learning.
That's true. That's so true.
And by the way, just as a caveat, this is not an endorsed product endorsement, so there is no referral fees coming back to me.
Oh, thank you, Darren, though.
Now, the other thing I noticed that the backdrop you have there before we wrap up, put a bow around the podcast. You're about to launch a podcast, and
Yes,
it's you've got the big banner behind you, the Men Almighty. Is it going to be called the Men Almighty Podcast?
it is. It
Nice.
is.
Tell us a little bit about that. What's the meaning behind that and the core purpose?
Yeah, it's a podcast where I will be interviewing the most powerful male minds who have contributed to the world's success.
Wow.
So, I am a firm believer, because I see all this girl power and, we can do what guys can do. And of course, I believe all that. I'm just a believer in that you just take action. You don't talk about it, you just do it. But I also am very grateful to men who paved the way for us and have been the pioneers for us to look at them and say, you know what, because he did it, I can do it too. Or he did it, I can do it better than him. So I'm extremely grateful to the men of this world for what they've the path they paved for us to be able to then go after the things that we want. So I want to, pull from these male minds and find out three different levels. Number one, a message they can leave behind to those who are listening about sales, about leadership, and also about values. So the three pieces of the puzzle that can help people be better people
Yeah, love it.
and achieve success in life.
Love it. Now, without putting you on the spot, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you got some names already lined up that might be in the pipeline that we can sort of start to pre or look forward to?
Yeah, I've got some people that I'm talking to, but I don't have the definite dates pulled for them, so wouldn't want to give any names out at this point, but it is in the works and it will be on my new website as well, meaning
Yeah.
there'll be a link to be able to go and listen and
Nice.
subscribe and be part of it.
Nice. Because I do know as a TV host, you are connected to some pretty cool people. So looking forward to hearing and seeing who comes on because you're right, there are so many people in the world that we can learn from. And it's not often that we get to get inside their head and figure out what makes them tick and why do they do things and what's their method for doing that. So that look forward to that. So when's that potentially launching? Are we talking in the next couple of months?
Yeah, within the next month or so, probably right around the same time Cockatoo's out will be
Okay.
when Almighty launches. So
Nice.
got a couple things that are all kind of going at the same time. So,
And then Gail's going to be on like maybe a worldwide promotional tour, doing the Sell Like a Cockatoo book launches, but also the Men Almighty podcasts. Not
yeah,
to
right.
mention probably some more TEDx talks.
And I do want to do another TEDx talk. I want to that's like not an easy process. I mean, you've got to go through you've got to be chosen from like 1,500 to 2,000 applications before you can even get on that stage. So I want to go through that process again, but like I've got these other things that are all going and I want
Yeah.
things to be moving before I do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Love it.
yeah, I can only do one thing at a time. Well, 8 things at a time.
But one of the things you don't do is you don't go to for coffee and donuts at 9:15 in the morning.
Don't do that.
No, we don't.
I don't like to stand around. I am
No,
not
that's why you do eight
standing.
things at once because you can't sit still. You've got to be doing stuff.
All right, that's enough from you, Darren.
Hey Gail, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on the show after nearly 12 months. If there's one thing to leave the listeners with in terms of a piece of wisdom and an idea, maybe something that Hank the Cockatoo can pass on as a lasting message, or a departing message, what would that be?
No matter how you feel, portray confidence. No matter what's going on the inside, show it on the outside. Make sure your posture is there, your tone of voice is there, you know what you're going to say. So no matter how you feel on the inside, you show it on the outside. And let that lead you day to day and then see what the results are.
Love it. Love it. Act as if.
Always,
Brilliant.
always. And especially in sales, because a customer counts on you.
Yeah.
They're counting on you to guide them in the right way. And if they sense that your confidence is off, it's going to impact the sale. So you've got to be at 150%. You're on all the time.
Yeah. Awesome. What a way to finish. Enough said. That's it. We're a wrap. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
being on the podcast. And
for having me.
and good luck with the launch of the Men Almighty podcast. And for listeners, please also make sure you get a copy of Sell Like a Cockatoo. It will be available at all reputable bookstores, particularly things like Amazon. But first and foremost, go to gailkasper.com and I'll put that in the show notes as well. So, Gail, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
All the best.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.